Hey there! Welcome back to another Genshin Impact video. I've been on an absolute roll with recording these, but I needed to play catch up. And now I'm actually going ahead. So, today we're gonna be talking about Cyno, the 3.1 character that supposedly is on the first banner of 3.1, and he's actually coming out soon, I think around 2 weeks. Now, I'm doing a beta review video like I did with Ayato because Cyno is still in the beta. Stuff is subject to change, but right now the beta is has less than a week left before it closes, and they most likely will not do any huge changes to Cyno. I don't think that they really will ever do such a thing right now. So we would have already seen any major changes. They've done some buffs and such, and even if they do like some small nerfs or buffs, it's gonna be pretty small. I don't think anything major will change with any number of changes that they might do like this Monday that's coming out. Yeah, so take this with a bit of, let's say, salt. Like, stuff could change slightly with some numbers or some stuff, but I think that plenty of things can be taken for granted for here. So I have two reasons for wanting to do this video. Number one is because I like Cyno's kit. I don't have, we don't have any like real crazy electro DPSs, right? Kitching is the only one, and now she has gotten a big boost through aggravate teams. But I saw Cyno. I'm like, I do need an electro DPS, and his gameplay seems fun, so I'm gonna roll for him. So I decided to also make a video about him. Number two is that as I have gotten more into trying to build Cyno and prepare for him, I've discovered a lot of problems with the people like theory crafting about him. There's a lot of confusion, it seems, because we have two communities and they have a lot of different results. And I feel like people will get like confused, and possibly, people through word of mouth will start recommending stuff to other people asking. And then when, Cyno hits live, they might be disappointed to see that, oh, I was recommended this to do this with weapons, artifacts, and the such, and now you're telling me it's complete bullshit. So let's start with the Cyno review. Go, part, skills, artifacts, and the such, like I did with Ayato, and kind of convert this into kind of a normal character review video. So what are my general opinions on Cyno? Well, first of all, compared to Nilou, he's much more versatile in the characters that he can use, and my goodness, I absolutely hate what they did to poor Nilou. You guys that are gonna pull for her, I'm seriously sorry with the dumb designing stuff that they've done for her, where she can only use Dendro and Hydro characters in her party because they wanna be like only Bloom stuff. Like, absolutely dumb in the designing department, especially now that we don't have many Dendro characters, right? Like, getting Nilou out where we had like plenty of Dendro characters that would work with her would be nice, but now that we have two, right, Dendro MC and Kole, because Tinari isn't gonna be on a Nilou team, seems extremely dumb. So Cyno seemed like the easy character to pick really for 3.1 for me. And I have to say, he is definitely an interesting electro DPS. He has plenty of similarities to Raiden and even Xiao in a way. And yeah, I really enjoy how his kit looks and everything. He is definitely made for aggravate, right? The electro plus Dendro for quicken, and then more electro for extra damage. As I mentioned in my Tenari video, they have really made aggravate and spread the vaporize and melt for Dendro and Electro, and now it seems like it's gonna be the only viable strategies and team compositions for basically any Electro and Dendro character that comes out. We're gonna have to see, because they want to push Bloom with Nilou, but look how badly they made her stuff work, right? Like, it's gonna be an interesting thing. And as for like Dendro characters that are gonna be with Cyno, it seems that DMC is your only choice. So yeah, even if I say that Cyno is made for aggravate, you're only limited to the DMC, right? The Devil Maker, the Dendro MC, which is sad because it pushes more that Kusanali, right? The Dendro Archon coming in 3.2 most likely is definitely going to be like the Dendro support for everybody, and I don't really like that. So let's go over Cyno's kit, right? Let's go over everything. So here is a Electro Polearm. That's nice to see, I guess. We already had Raiden. as our 5-star Electro Polearm, but nevertheless. So he has normal attacks, but they are normal attacks and they aren't tied to his kit. So we can skip over those. Also, I'm not using, as you can see, beta footage. I don't want to use leakers footage, not because I am afraid of MiHoYo hunting me down or some bullshit like that. I just feel like that footage belongs to those that are in the beta and the leakers and such, and I don't want to use it because again I feel like I should go and like ask for permission, which I just don't want to do for this video. And even if it's like, you know, free to use, I don't want to do it before without asking. Okay, so it's I glyph face for you right now. So yeah, I will skip over the attacks for Cyno because they don't matter. As for skill, he like lunges forward, but he also kind of goes up into the air slightly. But the skill is a lunge forward, which deals a decent amount of damage and has an okay cooldown. Generates a good amount of particles though, but that's really it. It's a simple, like, it's kind of Xiao's dash, but with a bit more to it. You know, like I said, he kind of like lifts up a bit, and then goes down, lunges down. But yeah, decent damage, and yeah, the elemental particles is really the big thing. I think it summons like 3 particles guaranteed, which is really good. As for Cyno's burst is the mode changing burst, kind of like exactly actually like Raiden, you know, kind of like Child's, you know, stance change. So Cyno kind of like gets possessed by an ancient god, as the description says, and his style completely changes. Instead of using his polearm, he uses these giant lightning claws, and you know his attack pattern completely changes. All of his attacks are converted to electro, and the big thing is that he also changes his skill, where now the skill deals more damage. He doesn't lunge forward. He just slams the spear down. He just slams an electro spear down and deals more damage than the regular skill, and reduces the cooldown of the skill to just 3 seconds, which is really insane. That's really, really good. So, you know, spamming the skill is definitely pushed forward when you're in the burst mode, but the skill does generate less particles while you are in your burst form, which is a big thing for Cyno, because he does have a decent burst cost, but unlike Xiao, Cyno can actually generate particles while in his burst. So that's a really, really good thing for Cyno in order to always have, so that he always has his burst whenever he needs it. But that's the big thing. Again, the burst has different multipliers for attacks, so you won't need to level up his normal attacks. You can leave it at around, you know, level 6, where you start using the boss materials and the golden books. You can leave it around level 6 because you never know when you need to finish off an enemy in the abyss with 1 or 2 hits. Or of course, if you're planning to use Cyno in the overworld, it's nice to not use skills or burst, of course. Just do some hits, right? And that's that really. So leveling up the burst and the skill is the main thing. Level those as much as possible. Also, this burst has a base duration of 14 seconds, and if you use your skill, you extend the duration up to 20 seconds, which is insane. But the problem is that this does limit Cyno's companions, which we will see when we talk about team compositions. It does limit Cyno's companions a lot because we don't have any freaking characters, or we don't have that many characters that have such long-lasting buffs, right? Most characters end up at 8 to 10 seconds, with really Zhongli coming into my mind for that 20-second shield. So yeah, the extended duration of the burst sounds good in theory, but you most likely will switch away from Cyno before you reach that duration because you want to refresh the buffs. That's the main kit. As for Ascension Talents, we have 2 very important ones. The first Ascension Talent is that while you are in your burst form, every around 4 seconds, I think, an effect will appear on the screen, an eye. While this effect is active, if you use your E, you will actually do even more damage. I think Cyno slams the ground actually instead of using the spear, but you deal more damage with the skill, and then you fire off some 2 extra bolts that deal a percentage of Cyno's attack. Before it was 50%, they buffed it to 100%. Maybe they'll buff it more, but just saying a percentage of Cyno's attack as damage. So it's now with this talent, it seems like it's less pushed to just spam the skill every time it's off cooldown, and it's more, and you're pushed to wait until the effect appears so that you can deal more damage and summon those extra lightning orbs. Well, this has caused some not confusion, but some debate in theory crafting. We'll see that when we reach artifacts, but yeah, it's like, does this matter a lot? Does this effect and the extra damage matter a lot? Or is it actually better to just spam the skill? For his second Ascension talent, it's an elemental mastery scaling thing. So for every point of elemental mastery that Cyno has, his normal attacks are buffed during his burst, and also he ups the damage of those 2 bolts that he fires through the first Ascension talent. So again, this seems to be pushing even more damage into those extra bolts, so waiting for the eye to appear. But yeah, this is an EM scaling passive. They buffed the numbers pretty well during the beta. And well, it pushes EM a lot on Cyno. It buffs his damage pretty well, but we'll see more in depth when we get into the artifacts. But yeah, that's the second Ascension passive. Puts a lot of focus into EM, but not crazy. It's not insane. Like, attack will still do stuff, and it's not like an EM passive where you build Cyno with full EM. Like, that's not it, right? So yeah, a decent EM scaling passive that does good. Thanks. But that's the kit. That's the base kit of the Ascension talent and the abilities. It's good. It's a decent kit, I would say. Compared to someone like Raiden and even Xiao. Well, pre C6 Xiao. It combines the burst and skill much better, because with Raiden you don't have the time to use your skill while in your burst form because the burst doesn't last that long, and with Xiao you don't want to use your skill while in your ultimate because he doesn't generate particles. Even if the skill deals a good amount of damage, you don't want to just waste the particles that you'll be able to get, but of course that's pre C6 Xiao. Well, that's most of the Xiaos, right? So yeah, I like the better combination of skill and burst that Cyno has. Like, that's a nice thing, and again, a really nice and unique way of an Electro DPS, especially since Keqing is really the only other Electro main DPS. So yeah, as for constellations, he definitely does have some really decent ones. I think C1 is okay. C2 is the big one where he gets extra electro damage bonus, and that is a pretty decent bump in his damage. So for light spenders, C2 to C3 is where you can stop. Of course, those that are whales can easily go to C6. If you're debating on C0 and, his signature weapon, or C1, C2, and not his signature weapon, we're gonna need some more theory crafting once Cyno comes out to see what's really worth it, because his C2 isn't really like, Hu Tao C1 or Raiden C2. It's not that big of a boost to really prioritize it over a weapon, but I think that both are decent options. You need to kind of see how much you're willing to spend, because for C1 to C2, that's like a maximum of what, like 6 pulls? Right, if you lose every 50-50, and you also have a 50-50, right? You lose a 50-50 for C0, you lose a 50-50 for C1, and the 50-50 for C2. As for the weapons route, it's like 5 pulls. You have the losing 150-50 for C0 Cyno, and then you need 3 pulls max for the weapon. So if you're planning to go C1, it's better. If you're planning to go C2 and above, the weapon choice seems like a like lighter option, let's say, if you have the primo gems for it. But yeah, like, again, it depends. For like C2, the least is like 3 pulls, right, where you win every 50-50. But for the weapon, it's like 2, right? 1 C0, a Cyno, and 1 weapon if you instantly get it. So again, look what you really want, what you have. Maybe you want to have some spare primo gems, even if you can get to C2 Cyno and lose all the 50-50s. Maybe you want to have some primo gems for Nahida, for Kusanali, right? So you can go for the C0 R1 option and have some primo gems left. Again, you do you. We'll have to see some more theory crafting when Cyno comes out to see what's really, really worth it to go for. Maybe the boost from the weapon is really that significant, or the constellations are more worth it. Especially if you have a 5-star weapon already, a la everything, even Staff of Homa, Jade Spear, and such. I think it's better to keep your primo gems and roll for constellations instead of wasting time on the weapons banner. Although we might need to see how good the weapons banner is. I think Cyno and Nilu are gonna be on different halves, so we won't see both of their weapons together. So we might actually see a very decent weapon banner. I think people are saying that maybe Eula or Venti will be in the reruns. So if you really want Song of the Broken Pines, and I mean Elegy for the End is insane right now with Dendro, I would say that Elegy and Cyno's weapon seems like an insane deal. So the weapon banner might actually be worth it. That all depends. So yeah, for constellations, it's a bit of a mixed bag, and yeah, it's a decent constellations nonetheless. That's that for Cyno himself. Let's move on to artifacts, his weapons, and team compositions. I'll start with team compositions because they are the least controversial. Fischl is Fischl. Let's start with Electro. Cyno will definitely like a second Electro character to be with him. The Electro Resonance is really useful for generating particles, and if you have some sort of buffer, you buff both of these characters, right? Fischl is amazing because she's Fischl. In Aggravate teams, once Cyno gets some really good companions for Aggravate, Fischl will be a damaging god, right? And that's really it. Like, Fischl is Fischl. Right now, she is on the top of the meta. Beidou is decent. You might need to see what you can build with Beidou, but again, she's a decent option. Will she output as much damage as Fischl in Aggravate teams especially? Not even close. Also in single target teams, not even close, right? Because Fischl is much better at single targeting. Cyno is decent. I think Cyno is definitely gonna be exactly like Xiao when it comes to the enemies he can go against, which affects the characters that can go with him. Like, Xiao is decent on bosses because his plunging damage is just that high, but because he has the immense AoE, he's also very, very good against lots of enemies, right? With the problem for Xiao being that he can push enemies away, but bosses cannot be pushed away from his plunges. So again, Xiao is very good on both situations, and so is Cyno because of how he has very good AoE through his normal attacks, being these really giant claw attacks, but also his skill during his burst mode has really good AoE. So Cyno, like Xiao, will be very good against lots of enemies, but I would guess that his own personal damage, and especially with Aggravate and such, will be seriously good against bosses as well. So again, like Xiao, he's gonna be definitely good on both lots of enemies and single target, but Fischl is better at both of these situations, and Beidou is only good on one of these situations. So that's how you can rank Beidou. Do you have a seriously good boss killing team like Ayaka, maybe a Ganyu Melt team, or Hutao, of course, the king of single target? Well, I would guess that you will most likely put Cyno in the more enemies, chambers of the abyss, or on events and such. So, choose Beidou. So Beidou is gonna be a bit more useful, right? But again, Fischl stands better. Like, I think you understand what I mean with that. So yeah, Beidou is decent. She has her own usability with the Electro Shred at C6, a decent shield that she can grant and such. So yes, she's decent. But after that, there really aren't any other Electro characters that really fit Cyno. Keqing is another main DPS, she doesn't fit. Raiden boosts burst damage which Cyno cannot use because his hits during his burst count as normal attacks, and the skill is a skill damage thingy. So, and Raiden also needs her own field time whenever she wants to use her burst, so she doesn't really fit with Cyno, so she's kind of out of the picture. Yae Miko is okay, but she might have some energy problems in this team because Cyno himself doesn't generate a crazy amount of particles, right? He generates enough for himself, and that's good, but Cyno and Fischl are the ones that really go together. Yeah, Emiko again can have energy problems, decent damage output, but again, not crazy for Cyno. Also, she does need a bit more field time compared to Fischl, so that definitely brings her down. And then again, there's nothing really else. Cookie Shinobu is decent because she has good healing, can go very well on aggravate, and she can carry. She can easily use tenacity of the Millilith. Unlike, well, Fischl can also do that, but Fischl can run other kinds of sets as well. But yeah, as for tenacity of the Millilith, it seems that Cookie with that will be decent for Cyno. She takes the role of the healer and some good aggravate electro damage. But Fischl really is the big one when it comes to damage. Other elements, Cryo has Diona mostly, because Cyno ain't gonna run Superconduct, and in aggravate teams, Cryo doesn't, impact Dendro because they don't react. But since C6 Diona does have the Elemental Mastery boost, she seems decent. She has a decent shield, and she heals. And if you have her C6, the Elemental Mastery boost is definitely welcomed. Again, is she gonna be amazing compared to Fischl, right? No, but a decent, like, flex slot. Like, you can have Cyno and Fischl, maybe have somebody like Zhongli or some other, a Dendro character, because we're playing Aggravate, so most likely Dendro MC. And if you don't have Zhongli, you can use Diona where she fulfills plenty of spots. So I think that's a decent, like, team. If you don't have like every character that theory crafters conclude that are the best companions for Cyno. But yeah, other cryo characters really don't fit. Like, yes, Rosaria can give some crit rate, but I don't think that really that's a reason to bring her in compared to Diona, which does offer a lot of utility. As for Pyro, there isn't much because, well, we don't have many Pyro supports, and Toma really is only useful on Burgeon, right? So we need a Hydro Dendro to work. So Cyno is not gonna work with that. The only character is Bennett, because Bennett is Bennett. He offers the attack buff, his Pyro application can easily be controlled in order to not impact your Dendro application, right, and trigger burning instead of, and eating up the quicken duration. So Bennett is Bennett. The attack bonus is Bennett's attack bonus. I don't think I need to mention much. But that's it really for Pyro characters. I don't think that Yanfei, let's say, fits as a, the tank Fei, like, very niche. I would rather have Diona for the healing and shielding. As for Hydro, well, here's the thing. Cyno isn't also an electrocharged kind of character. Plus, we don't have... Plus, Hyper Bloom, if you're thinking of that, Dendro MC just doesn't do it. If we get a seriously good Dendro applier and Cyno could potentially run Hyper Bloom, then yes, we could see Hydro units being better with Cyno, but as of now, not much. Yellen is decent because she has her damage boost, right? And that's really it, right? Yellen with her damaging boost. Kokomi is also kind of decent, but not really much, because again, her Hydro application isn't gonna matter to Cyno, so she's only there for the healing, right? And she also needs a bit of field time for her ultimate, right? So Diona stands better because of the EM sharing, even if like Kokomi could carry like Thrilling Tales, she isn't gonna be in a good spot for a Cyno team. Like Yellen can at least carry a bit of elegy for the end, for the EM and attack, so that's a bit better than other Hydro characters. Xingqiu could carry Freedom Sworn, but once again, like, that's that. Very niche, like very, very niche like stuff for these characters. So I don't think that Xingqiu is also gonna be like that good. So yeah, like only Yellen fits as somewhat okay, but once again, a pretty niche option, just to fill in a flex spot. And yeah, as for Dendro, I already mentioned that DMC is really the only one, and most likely Kusanali is gonna be the big one. I bet they're really gonna fix, let's say, Dendro with Kusanali, which I really don't like. I hope we see some, let's say, sort of emergency 4-stars come out in order to really help basically everyone. Tinari, Cyno for Aggravate, Nilo for Bloom, like that sort of thing. Like an emergency 4-star that does a really good job for these teams, and then you have Kusanali doing an even better job. But it isn't an absolute make or break thing. Like, that's what I mean, right? It's like exactly like Xingqiu and Yellen. Is Xingqiu perfectly good? Yes. Is Yellen also very good? Yes. Do you need to roll for both? Not necessarily. So the same thing should apply here. We have this emergency 4-star that does really good for every sort of Dendro that you want to play, and then we have Nahida just doing a better job or offering more buffs to the team. That's what I hope happens. Will it happen? Maybe later. Like, we'll see Kusanali come in, and then this 4-star Dendro will come later, and that's when we enter that state. So the reverse thing for Xingqiu and Yellen, which will hurt because two limited 5-stars just to do a good amount of damage on Tinari and Cyno and even Nilu seems really bad for free-to-play people. So yeah, that's for Dendro. Other than that, we have Geo and Anemo. Geo, I already mentioned Zhongli. He is Zhongli. First of all, his shield lasts a long time, so that's good. He reduces the elemental resistance of enemies, so that's amazing. And it's Zhongli's shield. That's it. He needs minimal field time. And if stuff is good on the Abyss, you could run him with Tenacity of the Millilith. But as I've mentioned in my review for Zhongli, it's very unreliable. C1 Zhongli fares better with Tenacity of the Millilith, but that AoE for the pillar is way too small to really make Tenacity of the Millilith consistent on Zhongli. So running him with, Tenacity of the Millilith for the HP and Noblesse for the damage seems like a better option. If you are sure that you can get Zhongli and working with Tenacity of the Millilith, then of course go for it. But again, I think for most people they won't run that because, again, it's inconsistent. Other than that, Albedo sounds good in theory because he has Elemental Mastery Sharing and he's a very good sub DPS with low field time. But his Elemental Mastery buff just doesn't last that long. That's the big problem. It just doesn't last that long. And then there isn't really any other Geo that works. Because Goro is a dev support, Ningen is a DPS, Ito is a DPS, Noelle is an on-field character, that sort of stuff. Yunjin is okay, but she buffs normal attacks, right, based on her def, but her buff also doesn't last that long for Cyno to use. So unfortunately, she also stands low, especially compared to Zhongli. I would say second in the same spot with Albedo, really. As for Anemo, we actually do have we have the normal trio being the big one. Venti, of course, for his grouping, and I do believe, we haven't seen it in a beta video, I do believe that Cyno should be able to hit enemies in Venti's burst, so if you bring Cyno in a chamber where there's a lot of mobs, I think Venti's gonna be an amazing teammate for Cyno. Not only that, if Venti infuses his ultimate with Electro, which most likely will happen if you have both Visual and Cyno, he will also refund energy. It's a big thing that Venti has over Kazuha. He refunds energy to the element he infuses with his ultimate, which is insane. But, with two Electro characters, right, Cyno will most likely won't need that much energy recharge, nor will have many energy problems. But I think it's just welcome to have this extra energy back from Venti, right? It's just nice. It offers you to go for more crit stats on your artifacts instead of energy recharge, right? And Fischl herself will not need any energy recharge and such. Again, if Cyno can hit enemies within Venti's ultimate, that's gonna be amazing for lots of mob chambers and be good for the energy back that Venti gives. Also, Venti can carry elegy for the end if you don't want to put it on Fischl. Kazuha is Kazuha. He has a good amount of grouping and he gives an electro damage bonus. That's it. He also, of course can carry Viridescent like everybody else. But yeah, it's the electro damage bonus. That's that. Sucrose has an okay amount of grouping, but not as good as Kazuha and Venti, of course. But it's the big thing about Sucrose sharing her EM for more aggravate damage. And while that's definitely good, it also doesn't have that great of a duration. So I would say that Venti and Kazuha can rank definitely at the same spot because of their just utility, really. Although the entirety, the whole Anemo trio don't have insane like durations on anything. Venti's burst will most likely, run out in the middle of Cyno's burst. Kazuha's buff will also run out, although the way that his buff works, where with like his ultimate, it might actually extend pretty well. We'll have to see about that. But I think that Kazuha is definitely also decent. And against Sucrose, like while the extra EM for the aggravated damage is good, again the duration is meh for Cyno. So it's the Anemo trio. Pick what you have. C6 Sucrose is also very good because she does offer a bit of an elemental damage bonus, but it is an even worse duration than everything else. So it's the Anemo trio. Pick what is suitable for the chambers that you're gonna put Cyno in, and pick what you have. That's about it, really. They all have duration problems mostly, and also they cannot proc Viridescent because Viridescent cannot be procced off the field. But they are just decent supports in general, so that's why I think they will just fit in a Cyno team as a flex spot. And that's it. Other Anemo characters just don't offer that much. John offers a bit of healing, but she also doesn't build EM like the main Anemo trio, which the Anemo trio can proc aggravate and deal a good amount of damage because they build EM, while John builds attack mostly for the extra healing. Sayu is decent, but also doesn't have much in terms of stuff that she can offer to Cyno, so she's out. Dori, actually, I forgot to mention her on the Electro characters. Dori, which just came out as I'm recording the video, she just doesn't seem that crazy because she's there for mostly a bit of healing and energy generation, which, as we said, with two Electro characters, mostly Fischl, Cyno doesn't need that much in terms of energy. He's still good. So the energy that Dori gives isn't that important. And then the healing, you could just put Cookie with the Tenacity of the Millilith and do more than what Dori can do. So yeah, I don't think that Dori is gonna be really that good for Cyno. Yeah, like not that crazy. I think that she fits on other teams. I've heard that she's kind of decent with Xiao because she generates energy with that link. But again, since I forgot to mention her, she seems okay. So that's it for team compositions. I don't think that I missed any characters. You can get many different combinations of characters in a Cyno team, but the main one being Cyno and Fischl. Now, before Kusanali, and if you skip Kusanali, can you run Cyno in a non-aggravate composition? Yes, you can. Just bring in some general buffers. You can even skip Fischl, although you might have some problems with energy. But the big one is, right, bring the classic stuff. Bring Cyno, bring Bennett, bring Zhongli. I think Zhongli is a kind of a must. But bring an Anemo character, right? Mostly Kazuha most likely. Or some other buffers and such. And you're done. Right, you're just done. And that's just a general pure Electro comp for Cyno. He isn't really built for Electro charts to bring a Hydro unit, but you could easily bring a, as I said, a Yellen mostly for the extra damage that he offers plus elegy for the end. So if you aren't planning on using DMC because you just don't like them or you don't want to build them or anything, and maybe you'll skip Kusanali or until Kusanali comes in, you can easily run Cyno with just regular Electro stuff. I don't think you're gonna have much of a problem there. Of course, your damage will drop a lot compared to aggravated teams, but I don't think that it will completely neuter Cyno's like damage potential to not run him in an aggravated team. We'll have to see once he comes out, where people are gonna start and just experiment with lots of crazy stuff. Let's move on to artifacts and weapons, and let's see. Let me tell you about the crazy things that I've seen. I've got some notes in front of me, so I'm mostly gonna read through them. So, what is the problem that I want to address? Is that there seems to be a split opinion between two theory crafting groups that have completely different results in stuff and have completely confused me. Because one suggests building Cyno this way, while the other one suggests building Cyno another way, and then you go onto comments and stuff, and you see people suggesting whatever, which collides with both of the results. And I think we really need to address this thing, because people will follow one or the other, and if one of them ends up being wrong, they'll start accusing the theory crafters and such, or just anything. And yeah, like, I really don't want that to happen, so I'm here to help us out both. So the two sides that I've seen is Kusanali mains, who appeared in the leak subreddit and said, hey, we're a team of theory crafters that are decently popular. They even have guides on Keqing mains, right? And they're like, as the name suggests, we are Kusanali mains. They're waiting for the Dendro Archon, but they're focusing on Dendro a lot, and they're also focusing on 3.0 characters, right? They want to focus a lot on Dendro and help people out with Dendro reactions and teams with Dendro in it. And they seem pretty decent, right? Again, they are former Keqing main guide makers, so that's, that makes them, pretty high on reliability, so I trust them a lot. And then we have the A Cyno mains subreddit that seems to have garnered plenty of attraction and seems to be kind of the main Cyno main subreddit, where they seem to have some theory crafters of their own, where I haven't heard any of them, nor in their post about Cyno, their like pinned post about how to build Cyno, have they mentioned any guides or anything. But they have garnered a lot of attention. A lot of people go into that subreddit and will search a Cyno main subreddit in order to build Cyno if they want, to get into Cyno and such. And again, like, to me, the Cyno mains theory crafters, or theory crafter, because I only saw one guy, I don't trust them, to be honest, because they seem to not have a background on anything, and just really lots of stuff. While the Kusanali mains, first of all, they have a beautiful website, and their Cyno stuff is beautifully made into a nice Google Docs, which I will show you. I have it up right now because I want to look at some statistics. While the Cyno main stuff is a paste bin shitty notepad thingy, which, I mean, kudos to the guy that said that he spent a lot of hours making, but it pales in comparison to the beautifully and very clear to understand Google Docs of Kusanali mains. But again, you, like, a normal person would say, well, ignore the one that seems shitty, kind of way worsely made compared to the Kusanali mains. But again, it's on a Cyno mains like subreddit with a lot of people. I would think that they would just take the results from Kusanali mains and say, hey, here's the Kusanali main stats for Cyno, build accordingly, here's a mega thread, ask away, and people will answer compared to the Google Docs. But that didn't happen. They gave their own results, and they are severely different compared to Kusanali mains. So let's start one by one. We're gonna go with artifacts first. For Cyno, there seem to be 3 to 4 artifact sets that fit him. Those being Thundering Fury, Thunder Soother, Gilded Dreams, and Gladiator in some instances. And actually, in some instances, raw stats matter, like 18% attack and 80 EM, or 80 EM and electro damage. Sometimes they output a good amount of damage. We'll see them in the Google Docs. Or here we go. Kusanali mains says that Thundering Fury isn't reliable and on the private servers, on the beta servers, so they cannot for sure test it and bring out nice results for them. They say that it isn't possible to calculate Thundering Fury and how good it is in the beta because it isn't functioning apparently as it should, and they just have a huge disclaimer to tell you that, which is good. It tells people that you can farm Thundering Fury, but if it ends up being not that good, it's not our fault. We told you how we weren't able to fully normally test it. So yeah, that's really good that they're mentioning that Thundering Fury has some problems on the private servers. Cyno mains, on the other hand, The theory crafter that made the paste bin thingy mentions no problems of Thundering Fury and just straight up puts Thundering Fury calculations in it. So either Kusanali mains is lying, or maybe their sources aren't using correct stuff in their private servers. So something is going wrong with the info that Kusanali mains is getting, so they are wrongfully being told that Thundering Fury isn't working, or something is just going wrong in their information circle or whatever, or Cyno mains is completely bullshitting. Right, that they are disregarding that Thundering Fury isn't working correctly, and they are posting wrong results. They are posting very much false assumptions on Thundering Fury's damage, and they are just completely throwing people on a wrong road to farm Thundering Fury, as they rank Thundering Fury as the absolute best set. Yeah, and heck, Kusanali Mains even mentions that other sets are having problems in the private server, that they are doing some crazy, not crazy assumptions, that they're having some assumptions on how these sets will work in Cyno composition. They're saying that Thunder Soother doesn't have an 100% uptime. They're using something around 85%. They're saying that Gilded Dreams acts weirdly, so it's not completely accurate. They have all of these disclaimers to tell you that these stats, these rankings on the artifacts could easily be flipped on their heads and be completely wrong if stuff isn't working as it should, which is perfect. It is really good. It's professional, I would even say. That's the thing. While again, no mention on the Cyno main stuff. So that's that for the sets in general. Let's go to stats. Everybody, both parties agree that you're gonna run an electro damage goblet and a crit rate crit damage circlet. That's that. For the sands though, Kusanali mains basically puts EM above everything. On most weapons, like 99% of the weapons, EM ranks much above every other option, which is mainly attack sands. So EM versus attack, EM on the Kusanali mains calculation seems to rank much higher than attack sands. They are different by a considerable amount. They're not Tinari different or some other characters where you say EM versus attack is actually very close, choose whatever has the best substats. For Cyno, it seems that EM ranks pretty high above, around 10,000 damage above in the calculations that Kusanali mains did. For attack sands, the Kusanali mains that I have right here has some decent values depending on the set. With artifact sets, the damage changes a lot, and one ends up better than the other. But here, let me show you. Let's go to our desktop. Here, we can see that mostly for EM sands, Thunder Soother is better because once again, we are not taking Thundering Fury into account because the calculations just aren't correct, right? We can't reliably go on Thundering Fury. Supposedly, Thundering Fury is the best bet set on basically every weapon, but again, because we cannot trust them, for now we disregard it. Here, you can see that mostly Thunder Soother is the best artifact set, with some outliers for Gilded Dreams being the signature weapon for Cyno, and White Tassel. But you can see, EM Sands, everything on Thunder Soother. For attack sands, we have mostly Thunder Soother, some Gilded Dreams, like Jade Spear has Gilded Dreams here, White Tassel Gilded Dreams. We even have Gladiators on Calamity Queller and Skyward Spine. Looking at the numbers, the best combination of artifact set and attack sands pales in comparison to any EM plus any artifact set, from what I can tell. There are definitely some that go a bit higher with the attack sands, but again, mostly it's EM outshining everything, especially again with the best combos of EM plus artifact set. But the Cyno mains paste bin shows weapons with a lot of attack sands as the best, and they don't even include EM calculations. So what the fuck is up there? And not only that, it seems that the people on the Cyno mains subreddit, the commenters, not the guys running it, really like attack sense on the Jade Spear, which I'm like, okay, I can understand because Jade Spear has a lot of base attack, and of course there's the attack passive and the likes. I also thought before I saw the Kusanali main calculations, I also went to run Cyno with an attack sense. But then, as we look here, as we look here, Jade Spear with Thunder Soother on an EM Sands, supposedly, these numbers aren't real, but as a percentage, let's say, compared to White Tassel, right, it deals a good amount, 603,000. With an attack sense and Gilded Dreams, it deals 592. That's a 10,000 damage difference. If we look here, which is the general table, right, we see that Thunder Soother on EM Sands. Okay, Thunder Soother, Jade Spear, 603. Thunder Soother, 590 on the attack Sands. Like, all of these numbers are much lower than everything here. So why the fuck would you run like an attack sense if there's such a difference, right? On artifact set, I can understand. Look, Thunder Soother on Jade Spear 603 512, while on Gladiator 603 448. So this means that between Gladiators and Thunder Soother, the best substats matter. But it's not that for the attack sense. Here, attack sense is substantially worse, but every single comment on the Cyno mains subreddit and their replies, like people ask, what sense do I use on Jade Spear? Attack sense, attack sense. It has high base attack, so use attack sense. And I'm like, but Kusanali main says different. So who the fuck is right? And again, 10,000 damage difference in their calculations. It's a substantial amount where substats isn't going to be, like, it's definitely going to influence them, but you're gonna need some really good substats to outperform this 10k difference in damage compared to the thing that I mentioned between Thunder Soother and Gladiator on Jade Spear with an EM Sands, where it's 200 damage. It's just 200 damage, so that means that even the slightest better substat will outperform. So what the fuck is up with people recommending an attack sands on weapons? It's always EM. There's no weapon that ranks higher with an attack sands. Like, it's crazy. Like, it's shockingly crazy. Like, I don't know what to say with this stuff. What's the main takeaway here? Not for the calculations, just for artifacts in general. Thundering Fury could easily be the best set by a huge mile. You will need to, like, see how you're gonna use your attacks and your skill to do some good timings with the passive, because even with Thundering Fury you can time the passive with the cooldown reduction and such. So Thundering Fury could again be very, very good. Even with Cyno's weapon, which people thought that as much EM should help, like if we see the super theoretical Thundering Fury stuff on Kusanali mains, you can see that Gilded is substantially worse than Thundering Fury, especially on Cyno's weapon. Like here we see like a 50,000 like DPR, damage per rotation difference. Like here it's almost like an 8% difference in the damage. Like that is substantial. But again, because these calculations are absolutely theoretical and cannot be trusted, as Kusanali main says, Thundering Fury stays back. Else, most weapons, as we saw with the weapon and artifact summary that Kusanali main says here, Thunder Soother seems to be the best ones, with only the White Tassel on an EM Sands being better with Gilded Dreams instead of Thunder Soother. I would guess that is because White Tassel gives a lot of damage amp, right? And that's what Thunder Soother gives as well, which it doesn't stack that well in Genshin. So again, like Thunder Soother seems like the best one. Gladiator also being pretty decent in a lot of these weapons, but again, always on an EM Sands here. So I don't know what to say. For me, I say EM Sands. I trust Kusanali mains and say EM Sands. I think that farming Thunder Soother again with Thundering Fury is the best option because if Thundering Fury ends up being the best artifact set, you're farming it right with Thunder Soother, and if Thundering Fury doesn't end up being like a better set than Thunder Soother or ranked similarly, you've already farmed Thunder Soother. For the weapons that need Gilded Dreams, as Kusanali main says, that's a bit of a problem. Now, you're farming Deepwood Memories as well, so you're future-proofing for other Dendro characters while farming Gilded Dreams, and then you can also put shady Gilded Dreams and Deepwood Memories stuff, although keep everything from Deepwood Memories because we don't know what the characters will scale with, right? So mostly you can put Gilded Dreams, bad artifacts into the strong box and get Thundering Fury to have some decent Thundering Fury artifacts, hopefully, to put into Cyno if Thundering Fury ends up being that better than Gilded Dreams on the weapons that use mostly Gilded Dreams. So yeah, I don't know what this huge ass difference is with the calculations between the Kusanali main stock and Cyno mains. I don't know this fight with EM and attack, and especially on the Jade Spear. Stop recommending it, for fuck's sake. Stop recommending attack Sands. Like, I don't know what the fuck is wrong here. So yeah, the easiest thing to farm is Thunder Soother and Thundering Fury, because both are sets that are very good. Again, Thundering Fury could end up worse, could end up better, we'll see. While Thunder Soother seems on a very good spot above basically everything else. If you have some seriously cracked Gladiator stuff, take a look at the Kusanali main stock and see what the difference is between Thunder Soother and Gladiator. Because as we saw with Jade Spear, you might not need to farm Thunder Soother stuff. You can easily stick with some godlike Gladiator pieces. Weapons time. They are pretty similar, thankfully. There are some outliers, though, that I really need to mention. On the Cyno mains, calculations, they put Deathmatch at a substantially higher amount of damage compared to White Tassel. On the Kusanali mains docs, they mentioned that Deathmatch is calculated with two enemies, against two enemies, which means that Deathmatch doesn't give the extra boost that it does, which is fair to calculate with, but it would be nice to have some one enemy calculations if you bring Cyno to a boss. But even on two enemies, the Cyno mains, this Cyno mains Theory Crafter puts White Tassel at, what is this? 7,000 less damage. Or wait. 1, 2, 3, 70,000 less damage than Deathmatch on R1 against two enemies. Against one enemy, they put even more. And I'm like, what? Because if we look at the Kusanali main stuff, let me go to my desktop, right? Here we are. On against two enemies again. Two enemies where the Cyno mains Theory Crafter ranks Deathmatch much higher. Deathmatch with an EM Sand is 559, while White Tassel is 569. That's a 10k difference in here. So where the fuck did that 70,000 more damage come on Deathmatch in here? Like, you see, White Tassel at R5 outputs 1,340,000, which seems kind of absurd on the numbers. But here, Deathmatch, 1,410,000. These are using Thundering Fury, as I mentioned. This Theory Crafter didn't say any disclaimers about Thundering Fury, but even on this Thunder Soother, as they say, second best set being Thunder Soother, as we see here, right, it actually seems that Gilded Dreams deals more damage on White Tassel instead of Thunder Soother. So this is another, since we are looking at specific weapons, here you go. And even another difference on artifacts that these two groups have. Here, Gilded Dreams is recommended, while Thunder Soother is at 562, while Gilded Dreams has 569. But here, Thunder Soother is supposedly the second best set over Thundering Fury. And here, if we look Thundering Fury, White Tassel, 6-1. Like, what is this? And again, what the fuck? I mean, let's see Thunder Soother. Thunder Soother for White Tassel, 5-6-2. Deathmatch, R1, 5-5-9. So even on the same artifact set, here on the Kusanali mains deck, White Tassel is dealing more damage, but here it's supposedly substantially worse than Deathmatch. At R5, I can understand. Here, at R5 at Thunder Soother, Deathmatch is dealing a substantial different amount, substantially more than White Tassel. And I would guess that with one enemy, R5 Deathmatch will most likely be a god. But I would guess that if you have an R5 Deathmatch, you most likely have some 5 stars. Like, 5 battle passes isn't cheap. Right? So, where the fuck do these numbers come from? Right? I can understand one enemy. Maybe at one enemy, Deathmatch seems decent. But 10k more at one enemy? To reach White Tassel, I don't see that. Now, again, because Kusanali Mains doesn't have calculations at one enemy, I can understand the reasoning behind it, but again, it would be nice to have them. But again, do you seriously believe that Deathmatch on R1 will provide, like, it provides attack, would provide that much attack to boost Deathmatch's rating 10,000 damage more? Seems sus. On attack sense, right, these are all EM, thankfully. These are all EM, but on attack sense is even worse. Deathmatch is at 5-3-3, while White Tassel is at 5-4-9. And even on R5, Deathmatch and White Tassel don't have that much of a difference. It's 3k. So the thing is that there's a lot of people in the Cyno main subreddit asking about, do I use Deathmatch on Cyno? With the calculation that you would see over there, you would say, yes, it's substantially better. But here, with the Kusanali main stuff, no, it's not. It's not necessarily better. Maybe against bosses, solo bosses, which you can bring. You can bring Cyno, as we said. He seems like a Xiao character, which he can definitely go against multiple enemies and single target. Like, I can understand that maybe Deathmatch does output more damage with White Tassel against bosses, with the one enemy condition that Deathmatch wants. But, like, imagine going Cyno against the against the PMA, right? The mechanical array. When it spawns the stupid things, you're fucked, because Deathmatch doesn't work. The new enemy, the new boss, I think, also spawns stuff. So, seems kind of weird. Although we don't really have a lot of footage of that new boss. But nevertheless, you see, like, this problem of everybody in those comments being like, get Deathmatch, Deathmatch is amazing, Deathmatch is good. I'm like, yeah, it seems decent, but here, with 2 enemies, it's garbage compared to White Tassel at R5. Deathmatch at R1, which most likely people have at, like, R1 or 2 Deathmatch. I don't expect you to go R5 Deathmatch, because you're getting Serpent Spines, or you just didn't buy the Battle Pass a lot of times. So, again, what's with this confusion? What's with this Deathmatch being so much better here on the Cyno mains theory crafting calculations compared to Kusanali mains? So yeah, like, Deathmatch versus White Tassel wins. Like, again, I don't understand. Also, Blackcliff for some reason isn't mentioned anywhere here on the Kusanali mains docs, which is interesting. I would have expected at least a no stacks Blackcliff, right? Instead of saying 1, 2, 3, like, right? And no like separate calculations have them. Like, they have some separate docs about each set. There's no Blackcliff anywhere here. On the Cyno mains thingy, Blackcliff, even at zero stacks, seems better than White Tassel. But for that, like, I can't exactly tell you how good it is compared to White Tassel. If I'm honest, I would guess that with Blackcliff here on the Cyno mains thingy being worse than Deathmatch, and then Deathmatch being wrongfully better than White Tassel, I would guess that Blackcliff is worse than White Tassel. I don't know, but I would also guess that Blackcliff is just a crit damage stat stick, right? And getting the stacks on Blackcliff seems kind of bad, right? Because yes, Cyno is gonna be on the field dealing a lot of damage, but if any of the off-field DPSs like Fischl, maybe if you have a Kazuha or anybody, steals the kill, you're fucked. So I can understand Kusanali mains not calculating Blackcliff. But yeah, like many of the comments here in this subreddit pinned thingy, they're saying go Deathmatch, go Blackcliff, it's better than White Tassel, and I'm like, there's no fucking way it's better than White Tassel when I see these calculations here from Kusanali main. So I don't know. This is a big note for the weapons, right? Like this seems really weird to me. So I guess that's the note for Deathmatch and White Tassel, where there's this very big like difference between Kusanali mains and the Cyno mains Theory Crafter, and then the comments go and recommend Deathmatch because they see these calculations, where somebody might go and waste their money on Deathmatch, and then they see that, oh, White Tassel is so much better, and then that's wasted money if they got Deathmatch just for Cyno, when you could tell them the free White Tassel is so much better. You see where the problem is with these two sides colliding with their theory crafting? We need to get this stuff like sorted out. So yeah, let's tackle other weapons one by one. First of all, Cyno with ER weapons is out of the picture. So Prototype Star Glitter isn't really for him. It just doesn't deal as much damage as any other weapons. Favonius Lance is also out of the picture. Let's take them through the Kusanali main stuff. The Moon Piercer, which I believe is a new weapon coming out, is on the bottom, and it's garbage. Worse than White Tassel, use White Tassel. The Ketane Cross Spear at R5 deals a decent amount of damage, but is also way worse than White Tassel, so there's no reason to use it. Vortex Vanquisher Unshielded, so without Jungler or a shield, is also way worse than White Tassel, don't use it. The Shifting Windblade is a polearm they're gonna give out for free for an event. It deals, again, a decent amount of damage, but is way worse than White Tassel. So it's an kind of event weapon, right? Which isn't crazy good on Cyno. Next up, Skyward Spine on R1 is decent. Again, deals like 2,000 damage less than Deathmatch. Skyward Spine at R1 against two enemies, right? And it's kind of free if you have, gotten it at some point through the standard banner or something. 2,000 less damage compared to like $10 or $11 or however much a battle pass costs. Deathmatch is still better, but I'm just saying that it's not worth it to get Deathmatch compared to Skyward Spine. Deathmatch is next at R1 against two enemies, dealing a very good amount of damage, but still way worse than White Tassel. Vortex Vanquisher Shielded sits around 7,000 damage less than White Tassel, so Cyno also doesn't have much of a problem gathering the stacks for Vortex Vanquisher. He's on the field for a lot. He does, he does normal attacks and stuff. So he actually gets the stacks for Vortex Vanquisher. It's that you need Zhongli, which is, as we said, a very, very good companion to Cyno. But again, it doesn't deal a crazy amount of damage compared to even White Tassel. So you do you. If you foddered White Tassel and you have Vortex Vanquisher just sitting, it's okay. It deals better damage than Deathmatch. It deals around 3k more damage against two or more enemies. Calamity Queller, that's Senhe's weapon. Worse than White Tassel. And yeah, wait, let me see something. 556, 564. Yeah, a lot of people were like, Calamity Queller has a lot of base attack, right? You would use an attack sense, right? No, EM outputs a lot more damage. Just saying. Just saying, do not trust any sort of people you find on the internet, especially on Reddit replies to your posts, to your comments, I guess, because holy fuck, do your own research and do it correctly. Because holy fuck, these people are completely misinforming anybody that tries to build Cyno. Yeah, but Calamity Queller, you most likely simped for Senhead to get it, right? Or maybe Xiao. But I think that you are not getting this weapon away from Senhead for Cyno, since it also is bad for Cyno, so keep it up. Keep it on Senhead. White Tassel R5 is next, which is the base for the Kusanali main stuff, like the 100% floor for Cyno, and it deals a very good amount of damage. It has a good amount of crit rate. You don't really care about the base attack because A, you're running an EM Sans, as is the right one, and yeah, Cyno doesn't really go crazy when it comes to attack. He likes the EM because of the second Ascension Talent bonus plus aggravate damage. Yeah, Gilded Dreams for White Tassel, by the way, instead of Thunder Shooter for everything else. So yeah, Gilded Dreams if you want to go for White Tassel, although Thunder Shooter lags a bit behind it. But still it does deal a considerably amount more damage with Gilded Dreams. Then it's Deathmatch at R5, but I'm skipping that because it's kind of bullshit. Staff of Homa, unfortunately, is the worst performing out of the big boys play. It is calculated at above 50% HP because, let's be fair, Cyno doesn't have a way to deal damage to himself like Xiao and Hu Tao, so most likely Homa will be at above 50%. Now, if you have Homa, should you pull for Cyno's weapon? No. Keep your Primo Gems and get more characters, especially Nahida Kusanali because Homa deals a considerably amount more damage than White Tassel at R5, right? And it's a good weapon. It's very, very versatile. And a lot of people pulled for Homa to put it on lots of characters because it isn't a Huta weapon to simp for. Xiao loves it. Zhongli loves it. Lots of people like Homa. So I can see people giving Homa to Cyno. So yeah, a very good choice. Worse than other 5 stars, but a definitely good choice. Next up is Jade Spear, which you can get from the standard banner compared to Homa. It is the second best weapon. At R1 at least. The second best weapon. Deals a much more damage than White Tassel, with Thunder Soother and Gladiators being tied for damage, so choose the one that has the better substats. And that's that. And then it's Staff of Home at R5, Jade Spear at R5. Those are really bullshit, and I don't think I really need to mention those. And then we have Cyno's own weapon, which demolishes everything. Like, it absolutely demolishes on an EM Sans plus Gilded Dreams. It deals 75,000 more damage on the Kusanali mains calculations compared to Jade Spear at R1. And those weapons are both at R1. Scarlet Sands, as it's called, at R1, and Jade Spear at R1 have a 70,000 damage difference. So it is definitely very much like big on damage. But again, I feel that if you have the Jade Spear, don't pull for the Scarlet Sands weapon if you want to save some Primo Gems. If you are not sure, if you don't have those like 3 to 4 pulls to get Cyno plus his weapon, you're gonna struggle getting some other units in the next patches. Because first of all, if you remember, patches are now a bit shorter in order to accommodate for the extension that we have back in, 2.7 or 2.8, however, whichever patch it was. So that means less Primo Gems from dailies, from Welkin, from events and such. So unless you have the money, keep your 5-star Homa, keep your 5-star Jade Spear, and don't pull on this weapon. Don't pull on Scarlet Sands. If you do have it, you're not interested in Kusanali, which, I mean, if you're pulling for Cyno, you should. Pull for Scarlet Sands if you have the Primo Gems to go for it. Because it's gonna be a huge difference in damage. Like, it seriously is insanely more damage than the other stuff. And yeah, I'm comparing it to White Tassel on Thundering Fury, it's insanely much more damage. Even with Gilded Dreams, the Scarlet Sands weapon deals like 50,000 more damage than White Tassel as the floor. For like Jade Spear, I don't know how much damage. They don't have calculations on Jade Spear and Thundering Fury. So yeah, that's it for Cyno. As we said, artifacts. Thundering Fury is a big question mark. It could be the best artifact set. It could be a decent artifact set. We'll have to wait and see. Right now, Thunder Suitor seems to be a very decent choice. Gilded Dreams is a very good choice on specific weapons, while Gladiator lags a bit behind on the weapons that have Thunder Suitor as their best one. So yeah, the better thing to farm is Thunder Suitor plus Thundering Fury on the same domain. But if you are planning to use White Tassel or Cyno's own weapon, you most likely are gonna be farming Gilded Dreams, and if Thundering Fury ends up better, you're gonna need to farm again or use the Strongbox. Although with Gilded Dreams, you are farming Deepwood Memories, which a lot of Dendro characters would like. Well, actually, not even just Dendro characters. We could easily see, you can easily use Deepwood Memories on the non-Dendro characters and help your Dendro main DPSs or such. Again, there are definitely benefits to farming both domains, but it depends on the weapon you're using, and that's that. As for stats, EM Sand seems to be the best one from Kusanali mains, and yeah, electro damage and crit, whatever you need most, whatever good circlets you have. As for weapons, we saw the rankings, right? Most of the 5 stars rank better than White Tassel and Deathmatch, which are White Tassel is the best option for fully free to play unless you used it. If you have a Deathmatch, especially Ard a bit more, you can definitely use it. It's better against one opponent, of course, and Cyno can go against one opponent, but if Cyno dares to go against more opponents, it's gonna end up worse than White Tassel. Yeah, if you have like Skyward Spine or like Vortex Vanquisher, I think it could easily be worth to go for the weapon and try to get it. Especially again, if I said the weapon banner is gonna be worth it, if they do pair it up with something like Elegy, especially Elegy for the end. But you're gonna have to see what your account has and what you want to use. As for team compositions, we mentioned, of course, that on aggravate teams, Cyno is the best. Fischl is his best companion on aggravate teams because of her own personal damage, good electro particle generation plus electro resonance. Beidou can be useful, while other electro characters, it's mostly Cookie, Shinobu being kind of useful. Other electro don't fit. Zhongli is amazing, and other characters just fall flat because their duration just isn't big. They will offer Cyno buffs for the duration that their stuff is gonna be up, but their buffs just don't have the duration that Cyno likes compared to Zhongli and Fischl with Oz. So it's gonna be a trick. And the last one is, I hope this theory crafting thing gets resolved, because as if you've come to the end of the video, we have such a huge difference between what Kusanali mains recommends and what people on that Cyno main subreddit recommend. For now, I don't know what to recommend, because again, both have stuff done, but I believe that Kusanali mains does their job more professionally. They seem more legit because they have a background story to tell, that they have guides on Keqing mains, and I think people very much trust Keqing mains. So I would mostly recommend Kusanali mains stuff and their calculations and recommendations compared to this random theory crafting person that appeared on that Cyno main stuff, did a very poor job at presenting their results, which could have easily been done in an Excel or Google Doc spreadsheet. Nevertheless, this is a long video, as was the Ayato video, because there's a lot of stuff to speculate, so it isn't as straightforward as a normal character review video where I have some recommendations on everything. So that's that. I hope you enjoyed. I seriously hope I helped you with the theory crafting stuff, like be careful. If you've been following only Kusanali main stuff, check the Cyno main thingy. If you've been only on the Cyno main subreddit, go check out the Kusanali mains spreadsheet for Cyno and decide what you want to follow. I personally, as I said, have a lot of points towards Kusanali mains to recommend them. So yeah, if you have any of your points to recommend the theory crafting on Cyno mains, that's that. You have your counterpoints. But again, I don't see why you wouldn't recommend, you wouldn't like go with Kusanali mains. Nevertheless, that's it for Cyno. I can't wait to do a full review on him. So see you then for the true Cyno experience and Cyno recommendations. Leave a like if you've stayed until now, I guess. Subscribe, because I've got more Genshin Impact stuff, more other stuff coming up. I'll see you in another video. Goodbye.